Appreciate y'all having us out here today. I appreciate you having this group of specialists. It's important to us. What's most important about this meeting to us, other than the tide charts and the weather forecast, I want to say this, that within 8 hours, I rode the elevator up with Glenn Hurd. I rode the elevator down with Andy Robinson. I had breakfast with Alex Hardy. I bumped into Donald Barber and Judd Green on several occasions. I got to talk to Andy Bell about Twitter and what I did tweet and what I didn't. I hate that. What I did tweet and didn't tweet. But what this meeting means to us as specialists is it gives us the opportunity to meet with growers from across the region who we might not otherwise in the same kind of settings. So as you go home after the meeting's concluded, anything you can do to tell growers that it's not just the program, it's not just the beach, but it's also the opportunity to visit with a large group of different people. I want to recognize who's not on the panel. Scott Tubbs is here today from the University of Georgia. Glenn Harris is here too. Their reason for being here is for the same reason as us. It's the opportunity to visit with farmers. It's to be accessible to you. It's to be accessible to the industry as well. So thanks for having us. We appreciate it very much. The title of this session, or the title of the conference, is Opportunities for Change. I think that's what it says on here. Opportunities in change, for change, in change. But my most important thing, I think, today is the opportunities to change. The opportunities to change and what we're going to see as far as what's already been discussed, but disease management as well. And it all comes down to this. For me, 2 years ago, I stood in the field at the beginning of the year with Chris Goodman in Tift County, Georgia. And he was looking at the second year in a row where he had Aspergillus crown rot. There had been a disease problem early in the season. There was a seed issue. There was a fungicide issue. And Chris said, I only made 5,000 pounds last year with this same problem. And Tim Brenneman said, Chris, 5,000 pounds is good. Chris says to Tim Brenneman, he says, it's hard to get excited about 5,000 pounds of peanuts anymore. Okay? The point of everything I'm going to talk about is it's hard to get excited about 5,000 pounds. And as our goals reach higher and higher to where we want 6,000 pounds, where some growers reach 7,000 pounds, what was at one time a small problem now can be a problem that keeps you from getting to that result. If you want to make 3,500 pounds, a lot of these things you don't have to worry about. But if you want to make 6,000 pounds consistently or approach that every year, then small things become big things. I want to say before I go on any further that what I'm talking about, I'm with the University of Georgia. Obviously, we have a panel from across different institutions. We have other ones here as well. But everything we're talking about is not just University of Georgia or University of Florida or Auburn. We all work together. Peanut RX is a great example of how we get together and work for the growers in the region, not just by state. A lot of regional projects go out. Losses, disease, and nematodes. Losses and diseases and nematodes and the cost of protection continue to be one of the most important aspects of your budget as a peanut farmer. What you lose and what you spend to protect that continues to be one of the greatest expenditures or the greatest losses you can experience in peanut farming. That's why we talk so much about what can we do and what's around the corner. Resistant varieties. Resistant varieties continue to be a high point. Barry's talked about it. We've got Bill Branch, we've got Charles Chen, we've got breeders here from other institutions as well, other companies. Varieties continue to be tremendously important. But what's the number one variety we continue to plant? Georgia 06G. We continue to put tremendous emphasis in our breeding programs on resistant varieties, whether it's diseases or nematodes. But until you as growers start to embrace that resistance, until you growers start to put importance on that resistance, it's very difficult. Okay, so let's not forget about that. Spotted wilt, nematodes, leaf spot, white mold. Okay, we have chemical options for those diseases and for the nematodes to some degree or other. But we also have varieties. We have to continue and we have to be willing to embrace them in order to keep them coming. Okay, fungicides are the continued backbone. Fungicides are the continued backbone of a peanut management program, disease management program in the Southeast, but we have issues that are facing us. Key issues. We got new fungicides coming out. You no better place to learn about new fungicides than right here at this meeting. I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you about those new fungicides. Availability. Who would have ever thought? I used to think that turning on a spigot and getting fresh water was about what it was with chlorothalonil. Not so all the time. Who would have ever thought our friends in the European Union would basically ban the use of tilt on peanuts? So availability and access becomes a problem we need to be aware of. Fungicide resistance. The old Folacure, tebuconazole, we know the resistance. We know there's resistance developing in strobilurine chemistries as well. So those are issues as we move forward. As we want to maintain 6,000 pounds and beyond, we have to look at the resistance as well. And the use of older chemistries. Last week at the APRIS meeting, our scientific conference, Albert Colbert talked about sulfur and he talked about manzate. Sulfur and manzate. Why? And the issues with resistance, we have to think about other chemistries. And also in availability. If you can't get what you want, what are you going to use? So we can't forget about what we've done in the past, though it's been a long time. Risk index. Dan Gorbat's here. I saw Jim Todd earlier. It's been 1996. Dan, I think when this first came out, we continue to build upon it. Continue to build upon Peanut RX. Lyle, first company to help us with that. We appreciate it. And we've got more companies involved now. So Peanut RX continues to be developed, and it's a way that we as growers find a way, or we as specialists and researchers find a way that we can help you make the best decisions. Peanut RX is undergoing changes now, and we continue to evolve it. Use it for the best current information on production. Tomato spotted wilt virus. As recently as 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of growers thought it had gone away. But as you'll see in this chart, the red is the losses in millions of dollars in the crop. And you see the high water mark before the Peanut RX, before the Tomato Spotted Wilt Risk Index, before Georgia Green came out. You can see in 1997 what the losses were. And what I can say is as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, spotted wilt was in a death spin. We didn't see much, but it's coming back. And we have it, as Scott talked about in some fields this year, we have it. We have to continue to pay attention. We cannot forget about this disease. It continues to increase ever so slightly, but we have to figure out why and what's happening with it. The two biggest players on a regional basis would be leaf spot diseases, both early and late, and with white mold or stem rot. Most important recommendation I can give to growers in this room for 2018 is the weather conditions, the hot, the humid, the rainfall are absolutely perfect for these diseases. We're already seeing white mold break out on plants smaller than we ever have, or than we usually see, I would say ever have, and we're also seeing leaf spot come. If we want to maintain those yields with diseases, we're not looking for thresholds like a 2-inch weed. We're not looking for thresholds like we would with insects. We're saying we have to keep the diseases suppressed before they become a problem. And that means with the weather, with the conditions favorable, in 2018 we need to be aggressive, especially if we're looking for top yields. 2015, a program in Early County, Georgia, was an excellent program 10 years ago. With a less resistant variety, a susceptible leaf spot variety in 2015, and fungicides that used to be bulletproof and that are not now, this is what can happen. So if we're not careful with resistance management, if we're not careful in how we use fungicides, if we don't take care to take in some of the newer chemistries and use them mixing new chemistries in with older chemistries, this is what can happen. So the first point is the weather's here, we need to be careful with disease. Second thing is if we're not careful with the chemistries, bad things can happen. We've never had a better arsenal as peanut producers. We have never had a better arsenal of fungicides. What's changing? What's changing? These fungicides continue to evolve. Provost Opti is likely to be Provost Platinum next year. You know about a latest coming out. Fontella's coming out. Nichino is likely to have a new chemistry out as well. Okay? And even the manzate you can see, we're even reaching back. So we've never had a better arsenal, but the arsenal we do have, we need to continue to use effectively, and we need to use it, most importantly, is timeliness. And then we got new chemistries coming out. Miravis is one I'm sure you'll hear about at this meeting. You do not have to use Miravis to get good leaf spot control. Okay? We have a number of ways we can get good leaf spot control. But new products, and Miravis is just a good example of it, when we have new products coming out, they offer us greater flexibility in how we get excellence in leaf spot control. We can get excellent leaf spot control by using products in the right way, on the right time. New products that come out can give us greater flexibility in how we do that. Okay? Peanut RX prescription fungicide programs, don't forget about those. We say with those, we need to save money, we need to make money, being more judicious, being more careful in how you apply fungicides, what you apply, and when you apply it can make you money and save you money at the same time. Last couple topics, nematodes. Okay. Nematodes remain a critically important component for a lot of growers in this room. South Alabama, Mississippi perhaps, Southwest Georgia, Northwest Florida, certainly in the panhandle of Florida, and also in other areas as well, we got nematode problems. We have resistant varieties we can look at. We got new resistant varieties we can look at. Haven't been embraced more fully is, I think, a part of the grower mindset as far as what's the yield potential. Do you want to try and make it up with a nematicide? But with these varieties, we have great opportunity. Okay? One thing I'll say, peanut root knot nematodes and lesion nematodes. It's been about 5 years ago that around Lake City in Columbia County, Florida, the county agent told me lesion nematodes were a problem. And I said, that's probably not true. I don't believe it. But as we continue to push yields and as we want to protect those yields, what used to be small pests like lesion nematodes can become bigger pests, so we need to figure out how to manage them. And then, of course, the most important thing is we have improved nematicides coming out. We have improved nematicides. These are ones that growers need to continue to think about using. Don't be afraid to use them judiciously. Okay? Last thing, and that will be done, is the collapse, the peanut collapse of 2017 in Florida, and maybe a little bit in Georgia as well. What caused that? What caused that? I don't think any of us really know. I don't think we're seeing it this year. I can tell you two things. I can tell you one thing, it was not a new disease that came into Florida last year and caused a significant collapse of the peanut crop. I believe, if anything, it was a collection of the weather, the environment, a lot of water early in the season, the water turned off later in the season, shallow root systems, inability to take up the nutrients that were there, tomato spotted wilt virus that came in. I think it was a group of problems that led to the collapse of the industry, or not the industry, but in some fields. We haven't seen it this year. But I will say that the efforts are underway to try and understand what happened in 2017 to make sure that when those conditions occur again, we're better prepared to deal with it. Okay? Just to finish up the conclusions, we've never had a better arsenal. We've never had a better arsenal of varieties. We've never had a better arsenal of fungicides. Now is the decision, how do we protect them? How do we use them effectively to make you the most money? The red is the overall message of what I'm going to tell. As we push to 6,000 pounds plus, as we continue to push yield potential, small problems when you're making 3,500 pounds become big problems when you're trying to push to 6,000 pounds. And the last thing, I think our biggest threats right now in 2018 are resistance management, disease resistance, availability of products, and also weather conditions that favor diseases. Okay? And that's what I've got.